Welcome to a special edition of SWBA Today. And in today's episode, we are looking at the most current news in the SWBA, and that is the firing of head coach Tom Thibodeau. So he is out as the Knicks coach. We're going to be talking about what this means for the Knicks. We're going to be looking at why he possibly got let go and just who the replacements could be for the New York Knicks at the head coach position. And so let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And so if you have not got a chance to see this current news, Coach Tom Thibodeau is out as the New York Knicks coach. And so this is a shocker, I believe, because when you look at just what Coach Thibodeau was able to achieve, I mean, this is a coach that led the New York Knicks to its first Eastern Conference Finals appearance in 25 years. And then also, too, when you look at what Coach Thibodeau was able to do as far as building the momentum of this team, this is the first time that this team had back-to-back 50-win seasons. That was the first time since the 94-95 season there. And so this just lets you know just how good that Tom Thibodeau has been for this team as far as just leading this organization and getting this team on the winning track. And then when you look at just what Coach Thibodeau has accomplished as a head coach in this league, you are looking at the SWBA Coach of the Year in 2021. And so I just think that this is a huge shocker because it's not like that you have a whole bunch of SWBA Coach of the Year candidates waiting to jump onto this job. And so you have one in your building that has certainly steered this franchise in the right direction. And so to let him go suddenly like this with the success that you had, it is very interesting. And so when you look at the statement that was made by the Knicks president, Leon Rose, he thanked Coach Thibodeau, but in the start of the statement, he says that the organization is singularly focused on winning a championship for their fans. And so he says for our fans, but for the purpose of the podcast, just letting you know, paraphrasing what he said. But still, I mean, it's just I just don't know how focused you can be on a title now when you let go of your head coach like this. And so this is very interesting. And then that just kind of leads me to really what could have possibly happened with Coach Thibodeau here. And so, look, just looking at this from the outside in, I think that one of the things that you have to think about with Coach Thibodeau is that this team perhaps needed a new voice, okay? Because Coach Thibodeau does coach hard, and I get that, but that's really how he gets the best out of players, and I think that that's really how he gets the organization in the right direction. And so perhaps you had players just really that were needing a new voice. I mean, this is something that we don't know. I personally haven't played for him. I'm not on those sidelines reporting for this team daily, but that would be point number one. Point number two, I would say, is just maybe as you look at what occurred with how this roster kind of used their rotations and things like that, I think that you saw a really a different approach for this team towards the end because they started Mitchell Robinson towards the end in this series against the Indiana Pacers. Then also, too, you saw that Coach Thibodeau was willing to go a little bit deeper into his bench. And I think that that's something that if you look at the teams that he's coached up, traditionally, that's not necessarily something that Coach Thibs does. And so for him to really go out there and try to do everything that he could and still not get the team there, I mean, maybe there's some outside frustration there. Maybe there's some internal frustration there. But again, nobody really knows that. And it's hard to speculate that, especially when you have your star player in Jalen Brunson really giving the approval for Coach Thibodeau. I haven't heard really any of the star players come out against Coach Thibodeau and the way that he coaches them up. And so for him to be let go, an absolute shocker. These are the only reasons that I could possibly look at and say, okay, maybe this is why this organization wants to go into a different direction. But, you know, when you just look at what's next for the Knicks, I mean, the Knicks are into a tough situation here because, you know, just looking at their roster, I mean, you have a ton of money tied up into some players. Karl Anthony Towns, he's at 3 years, $53.1 million. You have OG Anunoby at $39.5 $8.5 million for 4 years. You just re-signed him. You got Jalen Brunson as well at $34.9 million. You got Mikal Bridges that you just brought over in a trade. Josh Hart, $19.4 million. I mean, so look, this team has a lot of funds tied up into this roster. And then you have to think about this too. The picks that were given up to get these players over. I mean, you gave up a total of what, 5-6 picks to get these guys over. And I'm talking about Karl Anthony Towns and then Mikal Bridges. And so when you look at Coach Thibodeau and what he did, he really didn't have anything to do with that. And so that's something that you really have to think about with this Knicks team moving forward, because if they want to be aggressive, which it sounds like that they want to do in that statement, I don't know how they're going to be much more aggressive just from an organization standpoint, because you have so much tied up and then you've given off so much draft capital to get these guys over. And so for the wiggle room, that's going to be interesting. And then when you start to look at just the coach that could come into this roster, I mean, there's 4 names that come to mind. And really, I'm throwing another name out there. And so for these names, I saw via an article here on Yahoo Sports. And so let's start with the first one. And I think that Coach Stan Van Gundy very much has to be a coach that you consider, especially with the success that he had with the Knicks in the 90s. In fact, he led this team to the 99 SWBA finals, where they would ultimately get beat by the San Antonio Spurs, unfortunately. And that was on a shortened season. And so Coach Van Gundy, certainly a successful coach there with the New York Knicks, maybe one that could come back. If you remember him, he was on the television as an analyst, but since then, he has been back on the sidelines with Coach Lou and the Los Angeles Clippers. And so he's very much back into coaching. And so him going to the head coaching position, it could be something that makes sense. I definitely think that Coach Van Gundy is not rusty at all. He certainly helped revamp the Clippers defense. And so the next coach that was thrown out there was a Jay Wright. And so Jay Wright, I absolutely love Jay Wright as a head coach. I loved him at Villanova. I've always loved what he's done and really how he's helped players become successful at the next level. You're looking at a coach that led the Wildcats to the 2016-2018 championship in college. And he coached up Jalen Brunson. He coached up Hart. He coached up Bridges as well. So all those players, core players here for the Knicks, he has coached them all up. And I'm talking about Josh Hart. So he's coached all of those guys up. And so he's a guy that's familiar with them. I think it's something that he's probably comfortable with, coaching at Villanova, coaching the Knicks. I don't think that would necessarily be, just a shocker from a market standpoint and things like that. And so I think that he very much could be the guy. Can you get him out of television? That's a question. But the fact that he has ties to the core of your roster, I think that makes a lot of sense. Another coach that could make a lot of sense here would have to be, I think it would be Malone. I think Coach Malone would be another guy that makes a ton of sense here for you. And I think that the fact that he has experience with the Denver Nuggets and taking them to the title, and Michael Malone, I was going to say Michael Malone, and the success that he's had with the Denver Nuggets, I think he's a coach that you would take a chance on, especially since your roster, so to speak, is right there. Maybe he's the voice that can push them over the top. So I think that he's very much a coach maybe the Knicks could consider. And then lastly, look, I think that a guy like Coach Jenkins would be a coach that you would consider as well, because I think that he had a ton of success with the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think that really, when you look at the fact that he was fired the way he was, I think that was an unfair firing. And I think that he could really probably take a loaded roster like this, and he could definitely take you to the next steps as well. And so I think that Taylor Jenkins would be the type of guy that maybe the Knicks would want to consider as far as, maybe a coach for their coaching change here. But anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you feel like that any of these coaches would be a good fit here for the Knicks? Again, I've thrown out there Jay Wright. We have Coach Jeff Van Gundy. We have Taylor Jenkins. We also have Michael Malone. And then, just looking at just this roster and what they have tied up from a financial standpoint, the assets that they have tied up, it's going to be hard, I think, for the Knicks to make some real shakeups to this roster. Like, that's what I'm saying. And so if they're trying to go out there and chase the Pacers and things like that, and they're trying to get an even deeper team, I'm just not sure how you're going to go with the direction of trades and stuff like that. But anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. This was an emergency pod for SWBA. And so just to be clear, moving forward, I'm not sure that you will see this show like that. That's part of just the new merger that we have. And so we'll definitely keep you posted there with this show. And so I definitely want to go ahead and shout out everybody that really supported this show over its time. And, we'll see how this show evolves as we now pack up and move to the new venture force heading over to SimWorld TV. And so I just want to thank everybody out there for reacting, thinking, and hopefully checking out this emergency pod. And so, again, as we always say all the time, see the game and be the game. We'll see you on the next one. All right, peace.